All right, let's get right into it. Today we're unpacking a story that has absolutely shaken Malaysian football to its core. We're talking about a shocking sanction from FIFA, some really serious allegations of forgery, and a whole nation kind of caught in the middle, trying to figure out who to blame.
So let's just dive right into the middle of the firestorm, because before any official details even had a chance to surface, this was the feeling that just exploded online. The first reaction wasn't about the facts, not at all. It was about who could possibly be behind it.
And that, right there, brings us to the first part of this whole saga, the blame game. Almost instantly, this stopped being about sports administration and turned into this massive regional conspiracy theory. And you better believe, fingers were pointed, and they were pointed squarely at Malaysia's biggest football rivals. And the online chatter got super specific really fast. This wasn't just some vague feeling of being attacked. Oh no, fans quickly zeroed in on their neighbors, especially Indonesia, who they often call Konoha as a slang term, and Vietnam, flat out accusing them of trying to sabotage the national team on purpose. And this idea, this sentiment, it just spread like wildfire all over social media. It was totally fueled by this powerful belief that this whole scandal was just made up by rivals who were jealous of Malaysia's growing power in the football world.
So with all this talk of sabotage and these wild conspiracies flying around, you have to ask, right? What was the actual news? What happened that caused such an insane and immediate reaction? What's at the very heart of this storm? And that brings us to the core of the issue. A bombshell report was dropped, and it sent shockwaves, not just through the fans, but through the entire national football organization. This was the headline that everyone woke up to. News outlets started reporting that FIFA, the main governing body for world football, had slammed the Football Association of Malaysia, FAM, with a major sanction. It's pretty much the worst news any football fan could imagine.
And look, this punishment wasn't just some slap on the wrist, like a fine or a warning. No, this hit right at the heart of the team's strength. The report said that 7 key naturalized players were now facing suspension.
We're talking 7-star players, 7 careers put on ice, and 1 massive international scandal that is everyone talking.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? How in the world did Malaysia's national team, the Harimau Malaya, suddenly become the focus of a huge FIFA investigation that just shut everything down? Well, let's get into it. The seriousness of what they're being accused of is just huge. We're not talking about a small clerical error. The report's all centered on one very heavy word, forgery. And that implies someone deliberately faked documents to trick people, which, as we all know, is a serious crime.
To get a little technical, the reports were pointing to a violation of a very specific rule, Article 22 of the FIFA Disciplinary Code. That article deals directly with falsifying documents. So this isn't some vague accusation. It's pointing to a very clear and very serious breach of international football rules.
So with the stakes being this high, we're talking about the integrity of the national team and the reputation of the country's Football Association on the line, the public reaction was, as you can imagine, intense. And, like we saw, it was completely divided. You basically had 2 camps form online almost immediately. On one side, you had the passionate defenders, saying this was all a plot from the outside, with comments like, "Our neighbors have rotten hearts, and they are jealous of Harimau Malaya." But on the other side, you had a more critical group looking inward, saying things like, "Don't blame others, FAM itself made the mistake," and asking tough questions like, how could they not know the documents were fake? But here's the thing. No matter who people were blaming, one feeling seemed to unite everyone. Just a deep, profound sense of shock and, honestly, potential national embarrassment. If these allegations turned out to be true, it would be a massive blow to the country's reputation in sports. And just to add to all the chaos and high emotion, there was this thick fog of confusion. In those first few hours and days, it was almost impossible for fans to figure out what was real information and what was just rumor and speculation. The way it all unfolded was just so frustrating for everybody. So picture it. The news breaks on major media outlets, which makes it seem legit. So naturally, everyone rushes over to the official FIFA and FAM websites looking for that primary source, the actual statement. And nothing. Crickets. This official silence created a huge information vacuum that just got filled with even more theories and arguments. And in that vacuum, you had some fans who decided to take matters into their own hands. They were determined to fight back and prove that this whole story was fake news. So, in a move that was, well, kind of amusing, people started passing around an old news article. This old piece said that FIFA had previously confirmed that Malaysia's naturalized players were eligible to play. Now, while that was true when it was written, it had absolutely nothing to do with the new allegations of document forgery. But people shared it anyway, trying to use it to disprove these new, damaging reports.
Okay, so with all the accusations flying, the split reactions, and the widespread confusion, what's the one concrete thing we actually know? What's the path forward right now?
It all comes down to a single number, 10. According to the reports, FAM and those 7 players have just 10 days from the day of the sanction to file an appeal. The clock is officially ticking, and it's ticking fast.
The sanction. We need to break down the official ruling that came from FIFA because it was an absolute bombshell. It was fast, and it was harsh.
Okay, so who are we actually talking about here? I mean, look at this list. These aren't just bench warmers. These guys are key players for the national team. But you'll notice something pretty quickly. Look at their origins. See that pattern? Almost all of them have roots in Latin America. And that little detail? Yeah, that becomes the absolute center of this entire storm.
So, what was the damage? Well, FIFA did not hold back. First, there were some pretty hefty fines for both the Football Association of Malaysia, that's FAM, and for the players themselves. But honestly, the money is the least of their worries. The real gut punch is the 12-month ban from all football activities. No club games, no national team, nothing. And get this, it's not even over. Their very eligibility to ever play for Malaysia again is now under a microscope.
Okay, so that leads us to the big why. Why such a severe penalty? What exactly was the allegation here that made FIFA bring down the hammer so hard? Well, it's all about a trail of forged documents.
Yep, you heard that right. The core of this whole thing is document forgery. According to FIFA, this wasn't just some random audit. A formal complaint was actually filed after Malaysia's qualifier against Vietnam, specifically questioning if these players were even eligible to be on the field. So this was targeted. Somebody raised a flag and FIFA had to investigate.
And you know, the really crazy thing is, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this happen in the region. There is a clear precedent. Just look back about a decade ago. Timor-Leste got slapped with sanctions for almost the exact same issue, naturalizing players with sketchy documents. It was a massive warning shot to everyone in the area that these shortcuts have serious consequences.
So how did this news go down back in Malaysia? Well, as you can probably guess, the reaction on the ground was a wild mix of shock, anger, and a whole lot of conspiracy theories. It got messy.
Immediately, the conspiracy theories started flying. A lot of fans felt that their team, which had been doing really well, was being targeted. You saw comments just like this one, with this feeling that outside forces were jealous and were trying to sabotage Malaysia's success on purpose.
And some of those theories got really specific, pointing fingers directly at regional rivals. I mean, check this out. The accusation here is that Indonesia straight up bribed FIFA because they were scared of Malaysia getting too good. It frames the whole thing not as a rules violation, but as a political power play.
But, you know, it wasn't all just blaming outsiders. A good number of fans looked closer to home. You saw comments like this one popping up, with people basically saying, hey, maybe we did this to ourselves. The logic here is that FIFA wouldn't just drop a bomb like this without some pretty solid proof. The blame, for them, lies with their own association.
All right, so while all that drama was unfolding inside Malaysia, what was the reaction from the neighbors? Well, let's just say the regional firestorm is putting it mildly. For rival fans, this was a moment to gloat.
Yeah, the reaction was not exactly sympathetic. A lot of it sounded like this comment from a Thai fan, which pretty much sums up how the rest of the region saw it. The perception was that Malaysia tried to copy Indonesia's success with naturalization, but got sloppy and, well, stepped on a landmine. That's brutal, but it captures the sentiment perfectly.
And this right here, this comparison, really gets to the absolute heart of the regional argument. See, in the eyes of rival fans, what Indonesia's doing is completely different. They're bringing in players who have actual ancestral links, family history. But when they look at Malaysia's program, they just see a group of players from Latin America with no clear connection to the country. To them, it feels less like team building and more like a cheat code that just blew up.
So where does all this leave us? The scandal is bigger than just 7 players or one country. It raises some really fundamental questions, which brings us to the lingering questions. What's next for ASEAN football?
The potential fallout here is just huge. I mean, think about it. Are recent wins, like that massive 4-0 victory over Vietnam, just going to be erased? What's going to happen to their FIFA ranking points they worked so hard for?
And you gotta wonder, are other countries with similar programs, like Cambodia, getting a little nervous right now? And on top of all that, this is a disaster for the powerhouse domestic club, Johor Darul Ta'zim, which was built around many of these now banned players. What do they even do now?
And all of that leads to the biggest question of them all. After this, is the shortcut of naturalization going to lose its appeal in Southeast Asia? This whole mess forces every nation in the region to take a hard look in the mirror and ask, how badly do you want to win and what lines are you willing to cross? It really feels like this could be a major turning point for the beautiful game in the entire region.
And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Is this a devastating scandal from the inside, maybe born from a desperate need to win? Or is this really a malicious case of sabotage from jealous rivals? The truth is probably going to come out, and whatever happens in this 10-day appeal window could very well define the future of Malaysian football for years to come.